I'm a loud boss and asshole. A masterclass in gaslighting your users, and you grow via feeling really dumb.
Removing TypeScript completely.
Support JavaScript. I'm like, hey, no, just dicking around on stream, like showing people this tech that I liked. Simple scales incredibly well. If I give you a template, you're gonna make your blog with Prisma and Next off.
Build this like this one.
The lever that will help your career is the thing you're excited about. Stay away from YouTube and content is a distraction.
Ahoy, hoy! I'm Nick Nisi, and I'm joined by K-Ball here at React Summit. K-Ball?
Hey, I'm K-Ball.
And we have the privilege of interviewing Theo Browne. Theo, how's it going?
Pretty good. Awesome to be here. It's been a crazy event so far.
Yeah, it's been great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
What do I start with? There's two.
Assume nobody knows who you are. They've never seen any of your videos or anything.
But then I have to also assume things about them because, like, there's so many different. Like, I do a lot, is what I'm trying to say. I'm a software dev that's worked in the industry for a bit over a decade now. I used to be a back-end guy. Now I'm mostly known as the front-end guy, which is funny because that's like not where my history is at all. I make YouTube videos about software dev stuff, mostly focused on senior full-stacky topics that went way bigger than I expected. I've only been doing it for like 2 years, and I'm like top 3 software dev YouTubers now by viewership. It's nonsense. I just like nerding out with my friends, and all of a sudden it's a brand. So yeah, I also run a company, ping.gg. We started by building tools for creators. Now we're also building tools for developers like UploadThing, which is without question the best way to do file uploads in your Next.js apps.
Among the many things that you do, when I was looking into you, I was like, what is Theo known for? What can we dig into? And I saw T3 stack as a thing. I see.
Never heard of it.
What are the origins of that? Is it still something that you're paying attention to, investing in?
Of course. It's an interesting history. So when I was getting like really into application development when I was in college, that was the peak of the like mean stack, MERN stack era. And it was nice to have this set of technologies that admittedly don't perfectly plug together, but there are resources and an ecosystem around how to do that plugging. And it gives you a confident starting point to like build a real full application. Before then, you needed like an all-in-one framework like Rails, or you would just make everything fully separate or just deal with whatever was going on in the .NET world at the time. And mean stack and MERN stack taught me this idea that you can have a composable stack. And then I went and got a job at Twitch working in their stack for about 5 years. And then I left, joined a startup, built my own stack, left, made my own startup. I kept adjusting the stack, adding and removing things with the goal of making it simple and composable, and ended up settling on this set of technologies. Next.js was obviously like the core of it, but at the time, Next was really heavy on the Pages router. They had no other router yet, and there were so many things that I would say are wrong about Pages router. I was actually just arguing with the guy who made it today. It wasn't just like bad in the like, oh, it's unorganized sense. It's fundamentally missing almost everything you need to do data correctly in a React application. And I just got so frustrated with it that I was looking for solutions to fix those parts, and eventually settled on one named tRPC, which is the TypeScript RPC that lets you write backend code that is just a TypeScript function, and then call that code on the front end just with a TypeScript function, and it infers the types from back to front. And it was a really good experience. It was obnoxious to set up properly, but actually using it was great. So I brought that in. I was really hesitant about Tailwind initially, but I ended up liking it. Brought that in. Prisma was a solid ORM, so I brought that in. We needed auth, so I added next auth. And I realized, oh, I've piecemealed my own modular stack here. Any one part could be swapped for another solution, or if you don't need any one part, you can just not include it at all. But this is a lot of different technologies that combine together well. I proposed this to a friend in a Twitter space that thought it sounded cool, but just didn't see how like good it could be. He had an open source project that was a giant Firebase mess. And I rewrote the whole thing in 2 hours using my stack. It was 1/5 the code. It was a faster app. And he realized like, oh, this is so cool. Like, why is nobody else doing this? More people wanted to hear about it and see it. So I went live on Twitch for the first time in a while and just streamed myself building with this stack. Posted it on YouTube because I wanted to better understand YouTube, so I was building tools for creators. Video did pretty well. Then Dan Abramov was offering to do mock job interviews. I'm a big nut about interview culture and like how to do like hiring well. So I offered to have him on to do that. He did it. And of the like 4 or 5 mock job interviews he did, a lot of them were really good, but I to be a little arrogant for a second, mine was the best because all the others weren't people who have done hiring for years, and I've done like 500 plus interviews. So I think I did a really good job highlighting his talents and showing what an interview of someone like him looked like. That video went viral almost immediately, but then it brought up the T3 stack demo, which slowly became one of the most popular videos in dev, which is still weird to me because it was me just dicking around on stream, like showing people this tech that I liked. And it got like retconned into a tutorial of this stack that people were really hyped on. I was pumped that it went as well as it did. The missing piece is that I never built the like starting point, because the point is that it's modular. You start with the next step and you add and remove the parts that you need. Everyone's asking me for a template, and I was like, no, if I give you a template, you're going to make your blog with Prisma and Nextdoff. You don't need these things for these problems.
Isn't that what being a developer is? Over applying the tools that you.
If there's anything that I want my impact to have on this industry, it is a reset going as far back as possible to simple as best. Simple scales incredibly well.
Preach.
And I pushed this so hard, and that was like the goal of the stack. And if I made a template, I would be running against that specific goal. I did say that if somebody wanted to make like a CLI where you pick the tech that you do and don't need, I would support it, but I'm not going to make that. And a 16-year-old kid from India named Nexel did, and it was awesome. He started Create T3 app. I tried it when I was working on a project when I was at a conference. Like, wait, this solves almost all of the problems that people were asking about with this, and I'm going to start my apps using this now. A couple other contributors started getting more and more involved, and now it's the third or fourth most popular way to start a React app, which is nuts. I still can't believe it got as big as it did. It outpaces Remix somewhat regularly still. So.
And the T3, just to make sure I'm clear, stands for TRPC, TypeScript, which will go into TypeScript because Nick is a TypeScript, how would you describe it? Aficionado. And then Tailwind, was that the last?
No, it's the 3 letters after the T in my name. It always has been. It's been retcons to be Tailwind TypeScript TRPC, but it never was. It was called T3 Stack before I was even using Tailwind. I've owned the t3.gg domain for 10 years, and I've used that as like my main domain. It was the Theo stack. That was the point. And it just, people now treat it like it is this like specific set of technology. But like if I had named after the tech, then Prisma would have been the name. I don't even use Prisma anymore. Not that it's bad, but like Drizzle fits my needs and expectations slightly better than Prisma does. And TRPC, I still end up using it in half my projects. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but like with server components and app router, I find my need for TRPC to be less, and I'm not using it for all of my data fetching. I'm using it for client-heavy data interaction stuff now. So that's like the goal of the stack was to be modular in that way, where you can swap different parts out. I don't use Nextdoff much anymore. I lean towards Clerk because I don't want to deal with the deployment and maintenance of an auth service. I just want to have my auth work. It's been interesting that like the T3 stack by design, by being modular, has let me drift from the original T3 stack as far as I have, while still having it be that way. But on the other hand, since it's been retconned to mean these specific technologies, I'm scared to do like an update to the T3 stack where, no, now it's this, because people use it to describe a specific thing that is out of my control. I'm at the point where I'm like in the process of doing a rebrand where I move off of T3 as my branding and let it just be the T3 stack, and I'm just Theo. Spent a lot of money on that Twitter handle.
I was going to say, is T3 a persona for you? Like, is that, if you think of, oh, T3, that's a different person than Theo?
No, I don't do that like persona thing. I to a fault, I am me. Online, offline, in videos, in person. I regularly get the feeling like, wow, you are just that. Like, I'm not putting on a character. I'm just how I am. I'm a loud Boston asshole.
And you own it.
I don't pretend otherwise. Yeah, T3 stack's been a weird journey, and there's definitely people who are confused right now. And I get it. I'm confused too about like what it is now and how I should brand it. But for now, it's the best way to start a Next.js application with the option to include a few other technologies that I think make a lot of sense. I'll often use Create T3 app, turn off all of the things it adds, and just use the app router version because it has better ESLint rules and a better environment variable management solution than what you would get from the Next template. And I just like that a lot. The one option, the first question asked is TypeScript or JavaScript. And if you pick JavaScript, you get an error, wrong answer, and it picks TypeScript instead.
Nice.
We've left that in now for like 2 years, and every couple of weeks we'll get an issue like, hey, support JavaScript. And we're like, hey, no.
That's the right answer for sure. So you mentioned Next13, the pages router. Sorry, you mentioned the pages router. And do you think that the app router solves a lot of the problems that you were having with the pages router?
Not only does it solve the problems I was having with pages router, it solves problems I didn't know could be solved with a router. I was really skeptical going in, like notoriously so. I pushed like don't bother with app router for a while. Just stick with pages router. It's fine. I'm at the point now where like even if you're building things the traditional like SSR like pages router way, you should move to app router and just mount everything as a client component, because the DX and like the new functionality that's introduced is just so good that it's hard to justify missing out.
Can you give an example?
Layouts.
Okay.
Layouts in pages router weren't just bad, they were tragic. I just did a video. I built the same app in 5 stacks, where I went through all the stacks I've used in my career and built the same app 5 times with all of them. And the last 2 were OG T3 stack with pages router, and then modern Next.js with server components. And I had forgotten until that moment just how bad layouts were. So for context, like if you're on a web page and you have like your top nav and your sidebar, and you click something on the sidebar and it opens up a dashboard inside that has a top nav, then you click something inside and it navigates further. The idea of like a nested layout that has the core content in the middle is a concept that does not exist in Next.js pages router. There is no concept of a layout at all. You can't have a wrapper component that every subpage gets mounted in. The closest thing they have is a pattern they recommend where you bind a get layout function to the page function. So if you have like your homepage component, underneath you do homepage.getLayout equals a function that isn't a component. It can't be a component. It has to be a getter that takes in not a prop, but a child that it then returns as JSX with that child. And then it doesn't just work, by the way. You have to go to the app.tsx file and add a check, grabbing this weird prop you just defined on the function that you're trying to render itself, to rip out that layout function, wrap the thing, and then return it. And this only works at a depth of 1. As soon as you have 2 layouts, this entire pattern just stops working. It's 5 times more work to get 1 layer of depth. Or with app router, it's no work and infinite depth. Like it's just obvious, which makes more sense. And every single site I've ever worked in benefits from having like a shared layout structure of some form. I can't remember last time I worked in a code base that didn't need layouts in some way.
That makes sense. I skipped over pages completely. I just jumped right into app router.
I think a big part of why the T3 stack exists is because of how bad pages router was.
So digging down the stack a little bit more, I'm curious, your journey into TypeScript. Were you just immediately sold on it? Did it take some work to get there?
I've been an anti-JavaScript person for almost my entire career. When I joined Twitch, I was a Ruby and Python guy, and I joined an Elixir team and got really functional programming builds, like really early, and just I fell in love with FP. Then Twitch moved off of the I don't even know how to describe the Ember code base. It's not even that Ember was bad, it's that we used it at the wrong time in the wrong way, and the result was a disaster with this Ember code base on top of a Rails code base. We decided, we didn't even decide, we purchased a company named Curse that was all in on React and TypeScript. They were told they had to get the Twitch site working in their Electron app. They said it'd be faster to rewrite the site. And before Twitch could say no, they had finished a third of the rewrite in React and TypeScript, which is to this day the code base that is like hosting all of Twitch. I was so excited seeing that movement happen, seeing this team that was so motivated by the DX that they knew we could have that didn't, that before anyone could say no, they'd already built half of it. That got me interested. Then I got team transferred to a Go team, and I hated working in Go. It's not a bad language, it's a badly designed language. And it allows you to do really powerful things. And the fact that you can write code that is so simple and readable and performant is cool, but it makes me feel like a monkey, not an engineer. And I was miserable. So my manager, who was a front-end guy, said, Theo, you're clearly miserable. You're not getting anything done. I know you're not a front-end person, but this React TypeScript thing's pretty cool. By the way, I heard a rumor they're going to go in the functional programming direction soon. You might want to get in now. So I started learning React. I got decent data. I was starting to contribute code. It was about 3 weeks in when the hooks announcement happened. And then I was all in. I got to be the person who brought functional programming to the 500+ person code base at Twitch for the whole site. And that was like a magical moment. That's a huge part of where my career like trajectory skyrocketed, because I got to go from just a junior engineer barely understanding things to making real impact. And TypeScript was just the obvious way to do it. Like I guess for me, it was like JavaScript was this necessary evil for the web. And then I avoided the web for like 5 years. And then when I came back, this was like late 2017, early 2018. The thought of not using TypeScript just didn't cross any of our minds. Like it just like you use TypeScript. This is a code base that needs to keep working. You don't have another choice. My only previous experience with TypeScript was I was working on a Chrome extension that my roommate was helping out with. He was a big TypeScript guy in like 2017, and it broke all of my experience trying to work on this extension because it was like I had never used NPM really before even, so it was miserable for me at that point. Avoided it for a year, and then when I came back in, things were in a good enough state. I think the key for me was like having a code base that had it already all working and set up. And then once you started working in that code base, like if I didn't have TypeScript, I would be miserable now.
Yeah, I think I was working on a Chrome extension around that time too, and doing it in TypeScript was not.
Still isn't. It still isn't. I've tried recently. It sucks.
Yeah. So you went from a Ruby Python person to TypeScript. Did you feel a change in velocity with that?
The change in velocity happened Ruby Python to Elixir for me.
Okay.
Like Elixir, I went from roughly getting what was going on sometimes to overhauling infrastructure in hours and like building things we didn't think were possible quickly. And that was the power of like immutability and composition is unreal once it clicks. Mm-hmm. And the productivity I have in TypeScript, I don't think of it as like I'm productive in TypeScript so much as I'm productive in the technologies that happen to be using TypeScript or work well with it. I am not the TypeScript enthusiast that like a Matt Pocock is or a Trash Dev is. I'm going to do a TypeScript course in the near future. I've started working with Boot Dev on it. And that course isn't going to be, here are all of the crazy types you can write. The goal of the course is to, if I do it right, the first 2 to 3 lessons will have no type definitions at all other than maybe a function argument. It's also what I like about tRPC. If you look at a tRPC router, the file is a vanilla JS file. There is no type definitions because the types for the input come from Zod, because you're writing a Zod validator to take the input and make sure it is valid and follows your expectations. The type's inferred from that. And then when you return something in that procedure, whatever you return also can have a type inferred from it. I write less TypeScript than I've ever written when I'm working in things like the T3 stack because the only types I have to write are the props for functions in React.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's how I approach it as well. And this question kind of came up because just before this argument, we were actually downstairs at React Summit talking to an attendee who had a question about whether they're just like all in on removing TypeScript completely and going full JavaScript.
Yeah, they're wrong. It's fine.
I kind of agree. But like their pushback was like, I just have so much velocity. And I think it came down to just writing TypeScript wrong. Like you don't have to write, like you can infer or let TypeScript infer a lot so that you're really only writing the things like those prop definitions or argument function definitions.
That's the mistake I see the most with TypeScript for sure is like typing everything. Like if the average function in your code, if more than like 1/15 of your functions in your code base have a return type, you're using TypeScript wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite videos I did is the case against return types, because I was mad because my friend Primogen, he's coming from the Rust world where like you put return types on everything. I'm like, no, don't. That's not how JavaScript works. My argument wasn't like, oh, this pattern is better. It's here are 3 examples of where adding a return type entirely breaks your expectations with TypeScript. You can just lie to TypeScript by adding a return type and it will infer terrible things as a result. You shouldn't use them unless you really know what you're doing. And I think I've done a good enough job demonstrating it. My favorite part of the video is the end. I reached out to all my like TypeScript higher up friends and had all of them record a quick short, it's like a 550 seconds, like, hi, I'm Josh Goldberg, and I don't think you should use return types. And just went through the hierarchy of like 15 people because I think it's important that people don't, like if you have a 100-line of code JavaScript file and adding types adds more than 5 lines to it, you're using TypeScript wrong.
I think this guy, he was saying TypeScript and he was imagining Java code, essentially.
God. I'm happy I don't have the imagination to think of Java anymore.
Same.
component factory, worker actor model, top nav model.
Precisely. I want to dig onto a slightly different topic. So you mentioned when you started moving into React and you had to refactor all these different pieces when hooks came out, and that changed your career to a different trajectory. And you're someone who, you've mentioned career a couple different times. You are someone who's published on Twitch, who is published on YouTube and those sorts of things. What do you think people right now need to think about if they're trying to take their careers to the next level? Should they be publishing? Should they be focusing on what project they can tackle?
Stay away from YouTube and content. It's a distraction. It's there if you're like if you have things you want to say to the point where you're like you're struggling to sleep at night. Like that's why my YouTube channel exists, because I had these like fun nerdy deep dives at lunch and dinner at Twitch that I lost when COVID happened. And then I joined a startup and no one wanted to nerd out. I made my own startup, joined my Combinator, nobody wanted to nerd out. My YouTube channel came out of my inability to sleep and my poor roommate who had been driving up a wall, because he like had only like really learned to code about a year ago. And I was like deep diving on like the crazy new compiler stuff that Svelte is doing, and he just didn't care. My YouTube channel came out of the need to rant about these things. That's the reason to do it. Like content isn't a lever that's going to help your career. The lever that will help your career is the thing you're excited about. And if that thing is making a video game, if that thing is building an app to like keep track of the state of your plants in your garden, if that thing is a library that just clicked in your head that you love and you want to show people why it's so cool, whatever is energizing you, that is what your focus should be. Because career growth doesn't stop because you picked the wrong tech. Career growth stops because you lose the energy to push through those hard parts. You grow via suffering, and you grow via feeling really dumb. I learned this from skateboarding. You don't get better at skateboarding by going to a lecture and having somebody tell you the history of the skateboard and how the wood was crafted and the dynamics of the physics of how it flips. You learn to skateboard by hitting the ground over and over again. You learn to code by hitting the ground over and over again. And I'm tired of pretending that like if you make the right YouTube video or you go to the right class or you pick the right framework that you're going to level up faster. It's just the energy and the excitement. That's all it is. And the reason my career started growing is I fell in love with this thing called functional programming, had to be moved away from it for a bit. And then when I got to like re-embrace it with hooks, my excitement combined with the experience I'd had over the last few years resulted in me getting to make significant changes at Twitch.
I'm curious, I don't want to change subjects too much, but just based on what you said, like with the skateboarding analogy, I like that a lot. Do you think that the rise of AI is making it harder for people to hit the ground on their skateboards?
Been thinking about this a lot today. Like the reality is I don't spend a lot of time interacting with junior engineers right now because like my content is very much engineered. Like if PSA, if you've been coding for less than 5 years, don't watch my videos too much. They're just going to distract you. If you've been coding for less than 2 years, actually stop watching my videos. They're going to hurt. I know my content, I know what it's there for, and it isn't there to tell people what they should be learning right now. It's there because I'm excited about things. I want to talk about them. Yeah. Doesn't mean I'm shipping them. I try to be clear when I am and I'm not shipping things, but for me, the like point of this is to explore and talk about these things that are fun and exciting. It's easy to fall in the trap of thinking you have to keep up with and learn all of these things. And my concern with AI is that you can go way further without actually learning the thing. If you use AI to make the process of learning easier, like when I try to deploy on Cloudflare, because Cloudflare's docs are a masterclass in gaslighting your users. It's genuinely incredible how many lies and misconceptions they can fit into a page that I end up in a group chat with 3 Cloudflare engineers all telling me different things. All of them are wrong. It's unbelievable. But for whatever reason, Claude has like a 60% success rate with this, where like Cloudflare engineers have a 20. So it's hard for me to use something like Cloudflare without something like AI smoothing out those rough edges. But I think it's like the where it is in your process. And the biggest signal for me is if you run some code and you get an error, are you fixing the code or are you telling the AI to fix the code? If you're a beginner and you're telling the AI to fix the error, you're screwed. If you're a beginner and you copy the error you got and you paste it into like a new prompt and you're like, hey, I just got this error. Can you explain it to me and what it might mean? And then you learn what that error means and you go back and change the code yourself, Now you're using the AI to accelerate your learning, not to replace the act of learning. And that's a subtle difference of seeing different people like go one or the other way in. Are you copying the error message or are you copying the source code and throwing that into Claude? Which one you pick tends to have a very apparent effect on like the way that you're learning.
And I think that's a great principle for using AI in general. Are you using it to accelerate what you're trying to do, or are you using it to try to replace the act of thinking?
Yes.
If you're replacing your thinking, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. The thing I've loved it for is like, realistically speaking, I run 2 companies. I'm an investor. I'm an advisor. I spend my time doing a lot of different things. I don't get to code like in terms of like the raw time I'm spending writing code. It's significantly lower than it's been in years, and I miss it and I hate it. But what's cool is I can spend all my idle cycles thinking through like how I would architect this thing, and then when I do sit down, the combination of my pre-compute that I've done in my head plus the AI lets me gun out some super complex thing absurdly quickly. Not because the AI is doing the complex part. The complex part happened here over the last few weeks. Now I'm combining that with the AI to accelerate my own development.
100%. Yeah.
So what does that look like for you? Is that just you've got it all and you're completing with ChatGPT or with Copilot? Are you typing into ChatGPT?
I'm
or
all
are
in
you
on
using an
Cursor
agent?
now.
Okay.
I churned twice before like really sticking with it.
Yeah.
And I've been really,
Cursor's
really
the
happy.
way.
You too. I'm the odd one out.
Bias disclosure, I'm an investor. I threw them some money because I thought, because I really liked what they were doing. I also invested in Super Maven, the super fast VS Code model. It's not VS Code specific, it's like a code model that trains on your diffs instead of training just on your code base. So it knows like recency really, really well. And it's so fast that it's like literally every character press, and I type at 120, 130 words per minute, every character would make a new suggestion. It was nuts. And they were pretty good suggestions. So I love Super Maven. I invested a decent bit of my own money there. Super Maven just got acquired by Cursor to improve the speed of their like model for the autocomplete. But honestly, what I'm at the point at now is I don't want the like autocomplete while I'm typing. I want it when I've like decided what I'm doing next, and I'll write the name of the function, or what I do now because it's Cursor, Command K, say what I want, and it does a pretty good job. My favorite thing though, and I do this all the time now, is like when I'm working on a project that has like a lot of pieces, and I build like feature 3 and realize, oh, this is how I should have built features 1 and 2. Previously, I'd go back and make those changes. Now I just open up like the Cursor thing and say, hey, these 3 files. I like this one. I don't like those. Make the other 2 like this. And it does it so well.
Yes. That is
so good.
Brilliant. Same thing of like, build this like this one.
Yes.
And it just does it. Or like conceptual transformations. Refactor this file to approach this way.
Yeah.
Boom.
So with the 1 at 5 stacks video I just did, as I did each stack, I improved the styles of the site each time. And by the time I got to the end and I had styles I really liked for the final version, I was like, oh, the rest should match the style. So I just copied the like JSX from the main page component on like the main thing and just copied that, went to the Rails app, selected it, dropped in the code I wrote in the TypeScript one and said, hey, make this styled like this. And it just does it.
Yeah, I did one recently where it was like, we have this old legacy Prisma JS app, and we have this new Rails app. Here's the Prisma code. Make it work in Rails.
Yep.
It's bonkers.
It's so cool.
Wow. I'm clearly just not approaching AI in the same way as you guys.
I was so skeptical initially, and once you have it in your editor in that way, and you train yourself to like before this, I would avoid doing the tedious tasks. Like I have a team, I have other engineers, I have open source contributors. Like I can scaffold out, make this work, leave it ugly but functioning. What I used to do is I would rewrite the same project 3 times until I settled on like the version I liked. Now the first one, as I'm incrementally working on it, and like I've always had this when I work in like a new feature, a new project, code base, whatever, where as you're working in it, your own intuition on how to do it right improves. Like the reason the Rust rewrite is faster isn't just because Rust is faster, it's because you're realizing things you could have done the first time. And that's like if you talk to somebody like Ryan Carniato, the creator of Solid.js, one of the things he says a lot is stop treating rewrites like they say anything about the tech you used, because the second time you write the system, you're going to write it better. With AI, I can adjust the system as I find these things much faster.
Yes. Well, and there's a key there that I think is important, and we've been talking about this, which is those adjustments. You are refining your mental model of what the thing is. And the gap I see between people who fail trying to apply AI to code and those who seem to use it to thrive is those who delegate their mental model to the AI versus those who use the AI to do the tedium as they evolve the mental model.
Yes. Like I've never asked an AI how to do something. I've asked it to do this thing. And I think that's a huge difference.
Different topic. We're here at React Summit, not AI Summit. So we should, coming back a little
I've
bit.
done such a good job avoiding the AI topic since I got here. I've been proud. It only came up once during the panel.
Yeah, it's everywhere, right? And I translate
everyone's
AI,
mind.
AI to ay. But what brings you out to conferences? Why be here?
Before COVID, I did one tech conference like my whole life. It was a random Elixir meetup it was either the Yelp or the Pinterest office in SF. I can't remember which. It was like a small little 20-person gathering with some nerds about functional programming. And then just didn't do conferences. Like I didn't have a reason to. I fell in love with Rich Harris's talks. That was a huge moment for me. Like Rethinking Reactivity and Computer Build Me an App, I try to watch them at least once a year because they were so fundamental for me and like how I think about this stuff. And I owe him so much for showing me how powerful it is to communicate like a story plus a way of thinking intertwined into something technical. Like I fell in love with that way of expressing things. And I started doing that myself with my 60 followers on Twitter. Got real lucky that Ryan Carniato, the creator of Solid, did an awesome blog post about, I don't remember what it was. I hit him up offering to do a quick copy pass because I'm like a nerd about formatting and language. He said, sure, I did it. He's like, wow, this is so much better. Thank you so much. I did the same thing for Fred Schopp, the creator of Astro. And then I joined a Tanner Lindsley Twitter space about whatever. He just would do spaces when he was driving home from work every day during peak COVID 2020, 2021. And I asked him, I'd written a proposal called Use Backend Query. It was a compiler hook that you would use in Next.js that would let you write backend code in a hook. And then the compiler would yank that out, throw it in an API endpoint, and just put a use query call in there. Tanner's like, oh, that sounds really cool. I heard two things working on similar stuff, Blitz.js and TRPC, I think. I don't know anything about them, but are you down to go look into them and come back and share what you found? I was so hyped, went and did it. Ended up thinking Blitz was okay, but fell in love with TRPC once it clicked. Went back, ranted about it forever. And that was kind of the start of my creator journey, was being egged on by Tanner and Ryan and Fred that I had something that these people who I still to this day greatly look up to could get value from. And then at that point, conferences were a place to go hang out with these guys. And that's why I started doing it, so I could meet them in person and be involved in these things. Even then, I think last year was the first year I actually did conferences. I did 3, and 2 of them were NSF. This year I did 15, and I want to die. Not again. My limit now is 5 a year, and I've already picked the 5 for next year. I picked them based on the fact that I did literally all of them. And now I know what I am and am not looking for. For me, hallway tracks and big things, I'm going to talk. I've been to 15 conferences. I've probably watched 4 talks across all 15. I watched a talk on YouTube later because then I can make it a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. But when I'm here, it's to talk and hang out and have these conversations that are best had in person with these people. And just putting a face to the persona can help so much with that.
The hallway track is definitely a running theme with everyone that we talk to. It's just the best way to meet people like yourself, just people that are doing cool things that are interesting to you, and they're also interested in it. It's just, yeah.
So one of the things I've liked the most about this conference is it's not like the hallway track. There isn't actually much of that here, I've noticed. But what they do have is after a talk, there's a discussion room where you can just go talk with people about the thing. I'm actually kind of sad that this got scheduled over my discussion room time with the React team about the future of React. I should have came straight to this, but I ended up there and had to be dragged by the conference host up for this because I just wanted to nerd out with the React team more. But this event did a good job of blending the talks and the formality with that type of thing. And it's nice to see somebody challenging that. My dream conference is just hallway track though, which means you can't get sponsors, which means it won't succeed. But if somebody if somebody can figure out the way to do a proper open hallway track conference that has low to no talks, it's just for nerds like us to come hang out, I'll attend.
Have you ever done an unconference? It's essentially that concept, except some of the things do turn into talks, but people show up, propose discussion topics, everybody congregates.
The key is the people for it. It's weird to say this, but if I don't have Tanner Lindsley, Ryan, or Fred at an event, or React team people that I'm friends with, like if none of them are there, it's really hard to get me to go. Like I don't like being the one that is like first on the list to convince others to show up. I like joining the list once I see enough of my friends on it. So I don't want to be a kingmaker. I don't want to be the reason people are going to a thing. I'm okay with being a reason when they're already on the line. But I like there's one conference I do drive a lot of traffic to. It's Open Sauce. Not Open Sauce to be Dougie's thing. Open Sauce is by Will Ostman, who's an engineering YouTuber. He like built an X-ray in his garage, like lunatic. He missed
Of the best type.
the absolute best type. I love him so much. He's also like the nicest dude. We chat all the time. I love Will. He missed OG Maker Faire and OG VidCon. Nobody was doing anything like that. He was sad. He wanted like the ultimate science fair with his nerd YouTube friends and made it and hit me up to like help out. I was like, wait, like this is engineering, but like how much am I allowed to infect this with software dev? He's like, software engineering is engineering. Do whatever you want. So the first year I brought a few of my friends. It was the best conference I've ever attended, simply because like it was like creators and YouTubers who understand that dynamic and like the community management and all of that well as like little things like when I showed up, they gave me a little index card that was the exact things it was supposed to be at and when and the phone number to call if I need to like get out of a crowd. All of those like little details they'd figured out. I just never felt so understood as a creator at an event before. So when they did it again this year, I dragged all of my creator tech friends to it. I like told them like with like not mincing words, like you have to be at this one. And I think that went really well because all of them were hyped. They're all like trying to help fund it next year because it was so fun. Like that's the one conference I'll be like, no, you have to go to this one. I'm getting there with React Miami. That one's really fun and cool. And I love Michelle so much. This is my first time at a React Summit and I can see how I could be convinced there as well. But like I'm going to a conference because I have friends there. If I am surprised by the quality of the experience I have there, I'll become an advocate for it. But I don't want to be the first person in hopes that my friends show up later.
It's really interesting. It's different from the way I approach it, obviously. I don't have a phone number to call to get out of tech, crowds, but I do really enjoy like this. I do feel like there's a pretty good hallway track here, just down like where the sponsors are. Like we've spent all day yesterday and today.
Jamming with people.
Yeah,
And it is
meeting
fun,
random
like,
people.
You'll run into a Rich Harris or a Chantastic, or we were talking to somebody you wandered by and hadn't met in person before, things like that. So it's a great way. It is still all about the people.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
You go for the people, and you go to a tech conference or a meetup or whatever. You go out for food or drinks afterwards, and you're still geeking out with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that whole like people talk about networking, and it sounds scary. Networking is geeking out about the stuff you like with people who also like that stuff.
Yeah,
it's great.
The conference is a perfect way to have an excuse to get those people together to geek out all day, then go get food later and continue it. And
like my thing I'm so super excited for right now is when this wraps up, I get to go hang with Tanner for a little bit before his talk, and then after that, I get to nerd out with him a whole bunch after. Like that's like my list of excitement is who I get to go talk to next.
Awesome. Well, I think we are just about at time. Any last things you want to leave people with?
I had something and I already lost it, so it's not that big a deal. Just build stuff and follow your excitement. If you're doing a thing because you feel like you have to, it's probably not the right thing. If you're doing a thing because you can't sleep because you want to do it so badly, you're probably doing the right thing. And in an era where like more and more of the boring stuff is being taken over by our tools, you got to follow the excitement and the energy. Like what gets you excited to do what you're doing. I don't think the future has a lot of engineers that are only in it for the money. I think the future is the people who are the most excited getting 10 times more productive.
I think that's a perfect place to leave it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.